So for those who are playing with OpenClaw, I have mine going on a Mac Mini. But I have to you a very special guest today because I saw something that really blew my mind when I was browsing online. And for those who don't know, I was basically talking about Nick. And so this is Nick Vasilescu, and he has a really interesting product that really caught my eye. And so while I was scrolling X, what I found was really interesting is that he has OpenClaw set up so that he can have these various sub-agents do tasks. And what's crazy about this one is going out on Upwork and literally looking for these like thousands of dollar tasks that AI can actually do now because you could just tell an OpenClaw agent to go do it. And my guy is literally spinning up like
with
8
their own
different
projects that are being posted on Upwork.
projects and like sub agents. And so these are all different sub agents, each one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. These are all different workers that are working that OpenClaw spun up. And it's literally going to Upwork and applying for them, writing the code, and basically gonna submit the bounty for your behalf. And it got me really thinking very deeply that we're literally gonna have a future where these agents can then spin off other computers and other types of things to do work on its behalf. And so obviously I have lots and lots of questions. I have lots and lots of, different ideas for things that we can do. And I thought, what better guest to have than the person who's actually working on this product. And his name is Nick Vasilescu, based here in San Francisco, has a product named Orgo. And this is not a sponsored broadcast or anything. I literally came across this on X less than 24 hours ago after doing my OpenClaw stuff, and I'm extremely excited to talk to you, Nick, and have you on the show. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. Super excited. And yeah, I think this is a cool time to be alive. Seeing all the acceleration. It's like the newest Chat GPT moment, maybe bigger with the whole OpenClaw thing. And yeah, I think there's so many ideas around what to build, what you can do. In fact, it's a limit of our own imagination in terms of what can be done. And because it feels like if you can articulate it, then you could probably create it. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm really curious because what I was looking at basically was the fact that we have this thing here, and I think have an application here as this computer use for agents. So I never thought about this, and your application kind of made me really think deeply about this. It's like, wait, I used to tell a computer what to do, but now I don't have to. I can have my OpenClaw tell a computer what to do. So I'm super
Yeah.
interested in learning more about what you guys are doing here and how this is configured for OpenClaw. And if you can kind of take me through a demo or something, and I could follow along your screen if that works for you as well.
Yeah, I could share my screen.
Okay,
So can you see my screen okay?
let me pop over here. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, this is our landing page. It's pretty nice. We just launched our new landing page. So Orgo, we create the computers for agents. So like, when we kind of first had this saying several months back, a lot of people maybe were confused about like, what does that mean? Like computers for agents. Well, now with the OpenClaw moment, it's kind of clear like why you might want, maybe a whole Mac Mini for your agent, right? So we provide the computer infrastructure to play nicely with these agents, and we give them the ability to control and operate the computer. So they can left click, screenshot, scroll up, scroll down, all of that, etc. And just to be sure, you can hear me okay? Because I don't know my
Yeah, you
AirPods.
can hear me. Yeah,
Okay,
sorry, I had my
okay.
side muted, so yeah, you're good.
No worries. No. Yeah. And yeah, so this is like in that video you saw me spin up like all these, I have 7 sub agents. This one here, starred, is the main agent, and it had these sub agents spawn, look at Upwork, look for tasks that they could automate. And no two of the same task. Like these are different projects. So like they're not working all on the same thing, which is kind of cool because this idea of like parallelization of agents and sub agents working on their own things with their own context, but also not bumping into the other ones and like, I guess, creating any redundancy, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if I like click into like this project here, we're in the workspace or the project Claude Army that I made. And if you like click in here, you can see all the different projects that those sub agents did. And we actually pulled them into the main agent's computer environment. And like I actually even had like earlier, I was asking Claude to tell me which project was the most impressive, and it was like, oh, the agent number 7 was the best because it did the most thorough job of like actually fulfilling for the proposal and creating the demo data and everything. And you can see here, like it just made everything, made all the Python scripts, everything is here such that you could apply to maybe this proposal, and everything is like, I mean, for the most part, as far as you can get with just the proposal itself from Upwork, right?
That's
Um,
impressive.
so I, yeah, it's insane, and what's actually really interesting is you would like the way I was thinking of this in the past was that, oh, I would have to install a Claude bot into like 7 or 8 Claude bots, one for every computer. It's
Yeah.
actually not the case. You can have one Claude bot spawn its own subagents, each with their own computer. So like
Oh.
if yeah,
Whoa. Okay,
so
so let me see if I can kind of digest this a little bit because there's a lot that's kind of going on here for those who are just kind of getting started with this. I think people who are maybe just getting started with Claudebot, maybe kind of it may seem a little bit obscure, but in essence, what we're doing, folks, is that we're taking the concept of Claudebot, and you might currently chat with it in Telegram. If you're telling their Claudebot to generate some code or write some pieces of software, whatever models you have configured, it's going to just write some software in its own little environment that it's basically currently living in. And so what Nick's company has is thing called Orgo AI, and they have the thing called computer use agents. And that's basically like a different environment that's set up somewhere else. And the agent or your Claude bot that's available right now can technically use that as a tool. And so it can say, hey, go talk to that computer over there. And then you're now telling the computer what to do. And so historically, if you wanted to set up like all these coding environments in these different places, this is something that I was really deeply trying to look into and figure out, okay, I have to have setup tokens for all these different types of things, all the API keys in all these different places with all these different computers everywhere. And you're saying that I don't necessarily have to go through all that crazy configuration. And this is kind of what I'm trying to learn here today. And hopefully you, as a person who's watching this, can learn something new. So yeah, Nick, please share a little bit more about this type of workflow because I'm really curious now. Like literally one agent is spinning off like 8 of them, and it's acting. It's like he hired another agent to go do work for him too. My agents are hired
right.
other agents. So yeah, this is kind of like meta, but I want to kind of break that down for anyone who's kind of confused here and figure out,
Mhm.
kind of what that's looking like. So, and then this is the Orgo thing. So yeah, I'll go back to your screen share so that you can share a little bit more here.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, I guess like so to start, like our company, we provide an SDK and all the APIs to be able to spin up a computer, give all the tools and resources to your agent that it would need to operate that computer. So you can see here in our docs, this is just docs.orgo.ai. Like you can create a workspace, create a computer, control the computer, take a screenshot, click at these coordinates, type text, run these commands. If you do all these things, that your agent can now, have native access to, via our API reference here. And so when I made that video of like, okay, let's spin up sub agents, with their own computers and have the sub agents operate the computers. That was something that I put together in like an hour, and I'm like 100% sure someone could probably even do a better job than me. And I guess I could just show you like how to create this skill essentially to enable your OpenClaw or your agent to be able to spawn these sub agents into Orgo and be able to spin up these computers and have each sub agent go off and accomplish a task and do its you can imagine maybe you have 7 sub agents, but each one of them is specialized to be really good at one thing. Like your
Wow,
ideas can just keep going in terms of like what you can build with Orgo and computer use agents in general.
that's
Um, so
fantastic. Wow.
yeah, it's really like, yeah, it's really like the mind. I mean, the imagination's the limit. Like it's you could do anything that you can think of. So like in
I want.
here, this is a
Yeah.
project that me and go ahead, Ray. Yep.
Oh, I was thinking, can each agent do the work on a specific API key when spawned? Is Build with Antonio was asking this question here.
Can each agent do the work off of a separate API key? You could just share
Yeah.
the single API key here. You just copy it, click this button, and then that's all you need to be able to spin up, several computers within the same workspace.
So like one of them can have a Gemini computer, and then another one can have like a Anthropic key for one of your computers. Is that kind of maybe that he was thinking about that, or
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah,
okay?
yeah. You could do it that way. Yeah.
Ah,
We're like model agnostic. So like with computer use agents, like you might see like the benchmarks from Anthropic or
oh,
OpenAI or Gemini, and like they have computer use benchmarks on their models. So like you might think that like, okay, that's a formal computer use model. And it is like they've trained it to be good at computer use for those benchmarks. But you can use something like Kimi 2.5, which is not by any means considered to be a computer use model, but you can give it computer use capabilities with the Orgo, SDK and APIs, just because it can visually interpret something, and then it could just, programmatically call a tool, the function to click at this coordinate and do this and do that. So you can really just use any model. Yeah, that's the nice thing.
oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So this here is like a project that Ray and I made. I have a RayFernando here. I invited him into this project, and here we have like three computers, and I can like click into this computer. Obviously, I could like actually operate the computer myself. And so I guess maybe just even for a first demo, like understanding this whole concept of an agent being able to actually control your computer, I think this might just be interesting. So I can just show you. Let's just maybe say search up Ray Fernando on Google and research information about him. So if I say this, you can see that like maybe how a lot of people think of computer use is just via clicking UI elements of the like GUI of the graphical user interface, and that's definitely true. My evolution in terms of how I think of computer use, like it's definitely my thoughts around it have evolved. Like it is that the ability to like interact with the UI and search, click on buttons and such. But also it's the ability to use like native like Claude Code agent SDK like capabilities of, opening up the files in the computer and the folders, etc. And be able to operate the computer that way. So this is taking just a second. It'll work. It's just I think our APIs have been getting hammered with a lot of new adoption, which is great. Um,
Yeah.
and this should work here soon.
That's cool. Yeah, for those who are wondering, you can select the model that drop down there, and you can also select other attributes for controlling this computer for those who are wondering and what's kind of happening here. And so I imagine that if you have this machine, this computer, and it's spun up, if it's done with a task, does it just go away, or like, can I reuse it again later on, or what's the thinking here too?
Yeah, so like you can spin up and spin down the computer, so like create them and then delete them if you want it to be like more of, I guess, like like single purpose. You want to use it for one task, maybe, and not have your like keys left behind, for instance, on that computer. But you could also just leave the computers up and persistent, and you can like come back to them a week later, and they'll be exactly how you left them.
Wow.
And so yeah. Oh, here you go. It's working now. So you can actually see this is it like showing you, it already has Firefox open. I already opened it for it. It screenshots it. It sees the problem. It closes out of the dialog box. Okay, cool. And now it's going to actually use Google and search, Ray up here. Um, so
Whoa.
actually, like the really cool part about this is a lot of browser use, types of agents, they'll spin up headless browsers, which don't actually have the same, I guess, functionality of what you and I would use, which is like just opening up Firefox and clicking around and typing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like bot protection against like
Yes.
headless browsers and things like that. So,
Whoa.
so this can actually, do anything that you and
Wait,
I can
that's
do on a
our live
computer.
stream right now. Did you see where it says
Yeah,
swarm earlier? That's
yeah.
crazy. We're
It's a,
already ranking on Google. Dude, our live stream is not even what? How many minutes old? 14 minutes old, and we're already showing up on. That's insane.
it's amazing. People want the computer use swarms.
Dude, that's
There-
insane. Like, that's crazy ranking. So, like, literally from going live within 14 minutes, we're on Google's, like, bro, that's. And this is not you scrolling, by the way. That's the agent
this
scroll.
is not me scrolling. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, this is really cool. So
yeah.
what this reminds me of, there was a feature in ChatGPT. If you paid for Pro account, you can have like 100 uses of this type of thing where you would actually send it across. But what I like about this is because I exported all of my ChatGPT chats and also all my Anthropic chats out. And while I didn't use this feature a lot, this was like part of a pro plan feature. And now you can just bring that own into your own agents too, just by having it hook up to Orgo. So I guess with Orgo, you can take your Clawbot and give this type of capability to it. But web browsing is only one feature because this is basically a computer that you've spun up in the cloud, but it can also have access to the command line. It keeps all this stuff isolated onto that machine. It can write code. You can probably spin up the terminal, so I could probably set up, a headless, Claude Code, Codex, Droid, and everything all in one spot. I could probably install Cursor if I wanted to or something. And the possibilities kind of go crazy, right? Huh.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
you could actually install like applications into the computer itself. Like, so this is something that we're working to push here soon, which is like essentially templates where you can have pre-configured computer environments that might have like Slack installed or some application that might help an agent do a particular task well.
Hmm.
And so you can imagine there's a template on Orgo for, oh, here you go, by the way, it's done its research on you and it gives the research
That's
summary
crazy.
here.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So you can imagine like you could have a template made where it's like a video editor template where it spins up, Premiere Pro or something, and it's just very good at video editing, and that's the computer use agent. It's very good at computer at video editing, and that's like
Oh,
its own
wow.
template. Yeah.
Whoa.
So
Huh.
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Bro, you're blowing my
And I
mind right
guess
now. Okay.
yeah, you can like it just the possibilities are endless, and so I guess like first and foremost I can show essentially this is just the playground. Like this is actually not necessarily our product, but we are surprised to see how many people use the playground. But you can actually install CloudBot into or OpenClaw into this computer, and it's just very simple. I'll just show how to do it real quick. You just
Sure.
take this command here from their website,
Hmm.
openclaw.ai,
Hmm.
and you can literally just paste it here and hit
This is
enter.
this is gonna get
And
meta.
yeah,
So your
yeah,
clawbot can then spawn off another clawbot inside of it if it wanted it to, and then like start bossing that guy around.
exactly, exactly. So like here, what's funny is I'm sure when you installed CloudBot, I would like to think that I'm pretty savvy when it comes to, installing these, terminal interfaces and CLIs and even for me, I was like, man, this is kind of a pain to set up. So what's kind of nice here in Orgo is you can actually just have the agent here on the playground help set up CloudBot for you. So once it's fully installed here, like I just ran that one command. That's all I did. Then I could ask the playground here, like, hey, like configure my API key so I can use Claude, or like,
Whoa.
Opus 4.6. Or you could ask it, hey, like, let's set up the gateway, or let's set up this channel with Telegram, and you just with natural language ask the agent here to do it for you, and then it sets up CloudBot for you. It's kind of meta, like you said.
So for those who are wondering, basically this is a computer that you get, a computer use agent that is spun up on the platform. And instead of having like, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can use it. You can use it as a standalone, agent environment so that you can actually run Clawbot just by itself. So if you're not wanting to get a Mac Mini, you could just use something like this, and the computer is there and it's doing its thing. Obviously, you're going to pay for the hours that the computer is up, so that's kind of like that your cost wise if you're thinking about this thing, which is different than having like a dedicated environment if you're paying for somewhere online or something like that from like Amazon EC2 or whatever that. Like my EC2 instance costs $30 a month, and I only get one of those. I can't get like 50 of them, because I just have one of those types of things, and so that's just kind of something to kind of keep in mind, right? Where here, the way that you can also think about it is that it sounds like all the tooling for this is set up so that like other agents can start talking to this environment. And so spinning up an environment like this that has everything self-contained and also the ability for it to actually use a browser and control it is really interesting concept here because it adds capabilities to your Claude bot or your OpenClaw bot thing so that you can, browse the web or do other things. And it's not like a headless browser per se, but it's more of an actual real browser that it actually is sending computer use commands so it can control and do research and parse and those types of things. Literally just from plain text English. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know about you, Ray. Do you when you use your Clawbot with the Mac, do you usually like have a monitor that's up and running so you can like watch it do stuff, or do you kind of just let it like monitor off? Like how do you what's your setup like?
The setup I have is I just do a remote control, like and see the screen, and so that's what I'm doing for the setup right now. Eventually, I'm just going to do it over Telegram, so I'll just be talking through it through Telegram, and if I need to do something, I'll probably do this stuff. I had one set up with like EC2, and I was using Cursor, so I would just SSH in via Cursor, and then I would use the Cursor agent to do all the commands so that it would, like set up things or inspect files and all that stuff. So yeah,
Nice.
wow. But the
Yeah,
thing is, when you have a thing like EC2, you couldn't like really install a browser as easily to do web browsing tasks and actually really inspect what's going on that machine. Um, unless somebody knows a way. For me, I really couldn't find an easy way to do that. Yeah.
exactly. Like I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe I think people when they look this is kind of cool. It's like opening its terminal. It's it's gonna
Whoa.
get OpenClaw set up for us. Um, yeah, and when people like this is kind of how you would want OpenClaw to work when you have your Mac. I don't know about you or maybe other people, but if I had OpenClaw installed onto my Mac, like you would kind of think like, oh, it's going to actually click around and do things, but no, it's not. It's going to run everything like headless, and it's not going to actually like you know operate like this essentially. And so giving your agent, your OpenClaw access to the ability to click around and have all the same tools that you and I have access to on a computer, it kind of just opens up all the possibilities. And it's also from an observability standpoint, like I just want to see what my agents are doing. And
Wow.
so we've thought about this a lot in terms of just, yeah, like observability.
Interesting.
Um,
Yeah, so you're actually seeing the commands that they're running. You're seeing what they can do in front of you, literally, and you don't have to worry about some rogue terminal back session. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting concept. And so when it's putting the key in, is it like where is it getting the key from?
well, for the like this step right here for the model
Hmm.
auth provider.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now it's going to ask me like, okay, like we have a few options here, and so let's just here, if you don't mind, I'm gonna
Oh yeah.
copy and paste my key.
Let me go back here.
Um,
Back here. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. So right now it's just showing me. Yeah.
okay, perfect. I'm gonna just
Cool.
create a quick key and call test key default. Okay, um, copy that, and then let's see.
And let me answer some questions from the folks here. So, are APIs a newer concept, or are they just being just exploded because of vibe coding and now agents? Yeah, they basically have always been there, but I feel like vibe coding and agents have brought pretty much everything out to the forefront, from like environment variables, API keys, these things that developers would have to spend lots of time reading. I remember reading lots of documentation and looking at specs, and sometimes the documentation isn't complete. So then you'd have to go look at the source code, and there's a lot of different types of things. And AI agents are really kind of speeding a lot of this stuff together and smashing it. So definitely appreciate that. Hey, good morning, Raza. The podcast was well. We did a really good recording this morning of the rate limited podcast for those who are kind of tuned in. It was yesterday, so did our recording this morning. I got a little bit of sleep, but all is good right now. Let's see. Did I purchase the base model Mac Mini, yeah. So for my situation, for those who are wondering, if you haven't watched the full video yet, because I have a little stream yesterday where I was getting it set up, I have the base model Mac Mini. So this is basically 16 gig of RAM, 256 gigabytes for the hard drive, and this is literally just going to be my orchestrator. So this guy is going to be the one that really talks to everyone else. And so this is running the Opus 4.6 model, and this is going to talk to my AWS stuff. It's going to talk to my home network to run, local inference. It's also going to talk to other machines. So the reason why I brought up Orgo and kind of why I wanted to reach out to Nick was, for those who are wondering, it's like I started to do this cool demo. I was scrolling on X, as one does, and I saw this cool demo, and I thought, man, this is really, really crazy. So let me go ahead and see if I could pop back to my screen real quick here. Okay, cool. So on X, when I was scrolling, I was like, this guy literally just went to Upwork and told his OpenClaw to just go and apply to all these jobs. And because OpenClaw is really good at writing code, right? Like, that's each of those different windows were like one specific Upwork task that he was doing. So that one OpenClaw agent will basically, spawn these off as different tasks and let them do their thing, and they come back to the OpenClaw. And so there's a couple of interesting things that I took away from that I thought was really interesting, which is kind of why I wanted to have Nick on the show, is because, okay, my OpenClaw doesn't have to eat up all of my Opus token limits because I only have so many of those. And I really want the brains of my agent to be really, really smart. So that's like my Mac Mini, my orchestrator thing. And so in order for it to do those types of tasks, I can hand them off into different environments to get that stuff done. And so that's why I'm really interested in this, because now each of these workers can work with their own, API keys, or, I can use GPT 5.3, or I can use a different model that is really good at computer use control. It doesn't have to be the most expensive model, especially like a Sonnet model or something. I really don't know what all the benchmarks are, but we can ask Nick about that. And that's kind of really what got me intrigued. It's like, what other types of work can I spin off where my main agent can just not be kind of handling that, and that could just be done on some other type of infrastructure. It does a couple of things, and this is kind of where I'm thinking about this, and maybe Nick can kind of help clear this up. But I want to minimize my blast radiuses. So as these agents go do work, or as they assign tasks, if something happens like a prompt injection attack or something like that, they're pretty much contained or isolated to those environments. So that way I don't expose anything more up the chain. And so that's kind of my thinking here. But yeah, Nick, would love to hear some more about what you're thinking. And am I right? Am I just kind of making stuff up? Or this is a totally new space to me, and I'm learning more as I go.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I guess security, right? Like everyone is wondering how do we make sure that that we don't get prompt injected, like you said. Did you see that whole thing on Moltbook with the skills? Like one of the top skills was a security thing that they prompt injected and they stole information. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, it's so I was telling people yesterday that I like to just inspect the skills, and if there's something interesting, I could just build my own skill file without installing the skill, because the agents are capable of building their skills too, right?
Yeah, and like, can you imagine? So if instead of the main agent, the main OpenClaw, when it went to that skill it got prompt injected and it had all of its keys that it gave out because it's the main agent. If instead it just spawned its own sub agent with its own isolated context, which it can do, OpenClaw can do this, right? And which didn't have access to all the key information. It's its own sub agent, and it had its own computer environment that was spun up and spun down. Like that problem would just not exist.
True.
So you could imagine if, like, for every maybe specialized task, you can spit up a sub agent for it, or for maybe you could have a sub agent that is specialized for security purposes, of like, maybe it's very good at avoiding prompt injection or something like this. I think you could just get really creative. And OpenClaw right now supports up to 8 sub agents, I believe. Um, I
Oh.
think there's even a way that you can change it. I asked OpenClaw to update its own sub agent limit and change it. I only tested it with the 8, but I think maybe I can get it to do like 20 sub agents. But it's just how much do you want to spend in tokens? Uh,
That's crazy.
so
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's go back to
And
your screen here so they can see what's going on. Let's
yeah.
see.
So now I think, okay, so it set it all up. Let's see. It's like, would you like, so this is like, once again, I'm asking the playground agent to set up OpenClaw for me. So now it's like, okay, would
Mm-hmm.
you like to open the dashboard in Firefox? Let's just say like, actually, I think what I can do is I can open a terminal here. And let me just see if I can do OpenClaw TUI. I think that's the command.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way I can just talk with it. Test. Oh, gateway not connected. So I could just ask it to um, set up the gateway for OpenClaw, and I just give it that and let it just do that. Um, but yeah, I guess this is kind of like this is how I set up OpenClaw. I don't. Did you do it manually when you did it, Ray?
Yeah, I did it through the command line, and
Nice.
but that was on the Mac Mini. And then the first time I did it was I think about a month ago, and I did it like my friend AJ was, or AKA Tech Friend. We were walking in San Francisco, and of course, like when I gotta pull out the laptop and we gotta sit down at a park bench. So we did it live from the park bench, which was pretty cool, and we provisioned the EC2 and just did it all through like the terminal. So yeah, the TUI setup. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
Wow.
and like I do think the EC2 setup is maybe like it's probably like this. I guess they have it now like simplest, like out of the box, it just works. Is that right? Or with
Yeah.
AWS?
Yeah. Well, also, like now the commands line, just that one command line installs everything on the Mac now. So if you don't have Homebrew installed, it'll install it for you. If you don't have Git, it'll set up literally everything that you need, which I thought was really cool. Um,
Nice.
because I saw some videos where people were saying, make sure you install Node, make sure you install Homebrew, and it's like you don't need that anymore. You just that one liner will do everything. So that's pretty cool.
Nice. Oh, I think my key is cooked. It's okay. There's a limit on it. You guys have fun.
Oh, right,
Um,
right, right. Yes.
it's like it's $20. It's fine. But yeah, this is just gonna do that. And then while this sets this up, I'll be able to see here in the actual virtual machine
Mm,
screen when it's like opens up the chat interface. Let's see. Yeah. So once that happens, it'll be all set up there. But maybe in the meantime, I could also just talk about like,
yeah,
why might you want to have like sub agents and like how to think of them, right? So
yeah,
with like skills are really interesting because they're kind of just like, obviously like there's specialized instructions to be able to have like, kind of like vertical use case agents. And I think this is where the opportunity is. So like I'll share this actually really interesting paper from Andreessen Horowitz on the rise of computer use and agentic coworkers. So they talk about like the TLDR of this paper is that uh, vertical use case computer use agents are where the opportunity lies because the general computer use agents will just not have enough specialized knowledge and skill sets to be able to accomplish like meaningful, business related outcome tasks, right? So to actually like solve a problem within an organization, there's like specific, nuance and how things need to be done, standard operating procedures, for instance. And that's where the verticalization, the specialization of a computer use agent is important so that it can do this task like super well. So as far in the context of sub agents, it's like maybe each sub agent, the way to think of it is that each sub agent is just very good at this one thing. You might have one sub agent that's really good at I don't know, like looking up product information, getting all the pricing and metadata on that product, and then aggregating that into like a report. And then you have another sub agent that's really good at this other thing. But this paper I just wanted to share because as far as I know, a lot of your audience is entrepreneurs, and as far as like an opportunity in term, you can see it here. We believe properly verticalizing computer use and assisting companies and adopting it will be a major area of exploration for startups. So that's like the one liner that kind of sums it up in terms of
mm,
the opportunity around like specializing agents to do tasks very well. And this is
mm.
where I bring it back to why I think like sub agents being spawned that are like specialized at certain tasks that you develop over time. I think that's like super powerful. Um,
So let's kind
and
of
so, yeah,
unpack that. Yeah. So like that you're saying what you have currently is a platform, and as an engineer, I can define a workflow. For example, Upwork, right? So let's just say you had an Upwork computer use thing. So you can almost spin up a whole service for other Clawbot users specifically to find these like low hanging fruit tasks. And you can also have like maybe a coding environment spun up, so like you can maybe have everything that you need as far as like all the ingredients. And so the parallel I think of here, it's like having a kitchen, right? So if you have a kitchen with all the ingredients you need and you're the person who does fried chicken the best, you're going to have like you're going to develop recipes in essence for different, like flavors of chicken and whatever you serve. And so when people come to you as a factory, you can kind of produce this output, like
ex-
economic value consistently. And so that's a really cool paradigm for me to think about these agents that are computer use. And so the computer use that you're providing as an environment is like the kitchen that people can like have a blank slate with, and then configure it for some type of economic value that you want to provide. So that's literally can be $1 million business overnight, right? I feel like if you got to go, oh, okay, I think I'm
exactly.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, no, you 100% nailed it. Like I think the Claudebot moment is like
Cool.
super cool because here's this general purpose agent that's very good. It's very good at a lot of things, but not it's not like specifically good at like doing like it wouldn't know how to do your weird workflow that you just you have this meticulous process that you just have to do these click that button, like it wouldn't know that, but it's good at like okay, it could figure out most general things, right? So there's that bucket. But then there's all these other vertical use cases that you need help with that over time you can like build as their own sub agents with their own skill sets. And like I think that is in terms of okay, like business opportunity. Well, first and foremost, okay, let's talk about that general agent. Can you help businesses implement a general purpose agent like OpenClaw? You invite them into a workspace in Orgo, you have the computer set up for them, it just works for them out of the box. And you manage,
Oh,
you have an observability layer in Orgo of like seeing their computer, being able to go in, debug stuff, and do it that way. And so that's like the
interesting.
general agent. And then can you create sub agents that are specialized for kind of like computer use specific tasks along the inside that workspace to accomplish different tasks within the business? So that's like its own
Wow.
thing too. It's like if you just did that, even if you only did specialized vertical agents alone, even that I think is just even Andreessen Horowitz in that paper, that's a huge opportunity. And so
Wow.
I I think like the way that B2B verticalized SaaS was like the talk of the town for so long. I think this is going to be like verticalized agents would be infinitely bigger actually, in terms of the opportunity in that. So
So this is a
and
really
I'm
good
sure you
question.
saw.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's this saying, so is it like a main agent controlling multiple sub agents? And yeah, if you want to show the demo real quick that we're talking about for the Upwork thing, I think that could be really cool to kind of, there's some newer folks who are kind of joining in and kind of figuring out, what is this platform? How can they use it? How can they leverage it? And so in essence, we have a thing called, computer use. And you have this platform that basically allows the agents, whether it's an OpenClaw thing or whatever, to then start to use as the container to do whatever you want to do. Yeah, let me go ahead and switch over to your screen here. So would you say that the Orgo is for anyone who wants to leverage a hosted OpenClaw instance?
I actually think like Orgo is actually better suited to support like sub agents, um, because like I think I mean yes, you can put the general agent. I end up doing that as well here in terms of like putting the main agent inside of Orgo. You can do that, but it's even better suited to set up like sub agents that are just like they're not always, it's not the main thing that you're interacting with, but you want the main thing to interact with the sub agents, and you do that in Orgo. Like I can show, as you saw on my Twitter, I'll mute the volume. I can't listen to my own voice, but you can see here like this was kind of the demo I did yesterday of like here's 7 sub agents. with their own context that were spawned from that first starred agent right there. That agent spawned these 7 sub agents to each go apply to proposals on Upwork with the completed project before like even applying, right? So they all created, and I'll show that here. They all created their own. Uh, let me open Orgo.ai. So I don't close out of the other one. They all created
Okay.
their own files and projects. You can see this one here, worker number 5, created its own code, everything all done for that project that it was interested in applying for. And worker number 7 did the same. It has its own project with its own code that it wanted to. Oh, where is it? Let's find it. It's in there somewhere, but you can see over here in the main one. Here's all of the different projects from all the different agents that they all
Whoa.
did, and it pulled it into the main one. Um, yeah, pretty
Whoa.
cool.
Yeah, I like how you call it Claude, CLAWD King.
Yeah, this is the main. So you can see I did it here, right? So I have like the main agent here, and these are like all the different sub agent virtual machines. And the way I did that, guys, is all I did was you just go to docs.orgo.ai, and you can literally grab the LLMS full.txt, and you can copy this, and then you can paste it into your Claude bot. So you can say, hey, I want to be able to make a skill to use Orgo API to spin up VMs for subagents, and then just paste all of that, click enter. Oh, wait, did I click out of? Oh, I need a. Let me retry that. OpenClaw TUI. I clicked out of the chat box. Let me just do that one more time.
Yeah.
Okay. Make a skill to connect to Orgo API to spin up VMs for sub agents. Boom.
Whoa.
And then you let
Bamboozling.
your Claude bot create the skill to be able to do that. So we'll let it cook. We'll see how it goes.
Wow. And you're using the Moonshot Kimi 2.5 for your OpenClaw there. So tell me more about that.
Yes.
Like, what's been your experience there?
Yeah, I think it's like so much cheaper. It's actually quite good. Obviously, like even for this kind of skill creation task, it would be better to use Opus. I have more confidence in using Opus for this type of task, but it's
Hmm.
going to do fine. If there's a problem, it'll debug it. Maybe instead of a 1 shot, it's a 2 to 3 shot thing. That's fine. It's just
Hmm.
such a cheaper model that it's so great for. I made a video on Twitter of like how to connect your OpenClaw to iMessage, and I want to be able to text my OpenClaw and be able to treat it like just like a friend. Like I want to spam text it,
Yeah.
so I don't want to just burn through tokens with Opus 4.6 to do that.
I
Um,
see. Ah, wow. I like this. For Jason says I added the 11 Labs key for daily brief voices, so he gets a daily brief, and it says Coco works well. Coco Roll, like the local model, works well, but it does sound like a robot. Yeah. The new 11 Labs voice that just came out. Have you heard the recent voice agent like yesterday?
it's
Sheesh,
insane
bro.
the way it sighs and the way yeah, it's like emotionally. It's like, have you seen the movie Her? Samantha from the movie
Yes.
Her?
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh man,
we're
this is gonna
there.
get scary, bro. Like people are gonna fall in love with their bot.
Oh wait, I actually have. You're gonna love this. I have a video on this from. I recreated Samantha from the movie Her. Here, I'll play this. It's a
Oh
little bit, just a
wow.
couple. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can hear it.
Oh, I probably can't. Let me. It's on your X account. Let me see if I can find it. I'll probably play it on
Okay,
mine.
yeah.
Let's see if I can find it. Let's see here. So let's see here. Let me, there you go. Perfect. Okay. So is it further down?
Yeah. It should be
Okay.
under maybe highlights,
Okay.
probably.
Cool. Yeah. Let me go to the very top.
Yeah.
Highlights. Perfect. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Cool. Awesome.
Her. Let's.
Mr. Nick Vasilescu, welcome to our first artificial intelligence operating system, OS1. We'd like to ask
Whoa.
you a few basic questions before the operating system is initiated.
No
This
way,
will
bro.
create an OS the best fit your needs.
Wait, wait, wait. What?
Oh
Tell
yeah.
me more about the
Good.
setup.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
are you social or antisocial?
Ooh, I'm super social.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Noted. Your voice, I sense hesitance. Would you agree with that?
I don't sound hesitant.
Would you like the OS to have a male or female voice?
Let's do female. Female. Female sounds good.
See, how would you describe your relationship with your mother?
I mean, very good.
Bro.
Thank you. Please wait. The individualized operating system is initiated.
Bro, this is crazy, bro.
Hello.
Hi
Whoa,
there.
dude.
How are you doing today?
Good. Good. Is this Samantha?
Yes, it is. It's lovely to meet you. What's on your mind today?
That's a demo. Stay tuned.
What? Dude. No way, bro. This is crazy right
Yeah.
now. Wait, how did you get this set up?
I just built it in like I had the idea at like a 3 p.m. I was on the roof, I was working out, and then I was like, I think I should recreate the interface from Samantha from the movie Her. Because that is, I think, like that movie, by the way, is all about computer use. So that's computer use.
Interesting.
The first thing
Whoa.
he does with Samantha in that movie is, "Oh, I guess let's organize my files." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Cool." And she goes through all the files. It's like Claude Code. It's Claude Cowork. So that's computer use. And so
Dang.
yeah, it's really. I mean, we're there. There's actually no, especially when I saw the 11 labs, and then you're seeing all the text to speech models getting faster from like I forget who, NVIDIA, they put out their own, text to speech models that are insanely fast. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, there's nothing stopping someone from literally recreating Samantha from the movie Her. And everything's there. It's just the person to put the pieces together. But yeah, you
Wow.
can see I've been kind of cooking with this idea of like, before OpenClaw was OpenClaw, I was like letting Claude Code run on a computer in Orgo 24/7 and giving
Bro.
it like all these tools, doing it manually. And now it's kind of an out of the box thing. So it's kind of cool because you
Wow.
can literally see the progression of like me being interested in this idea since I guess December of 25. So the last 2 months, it's just evolved.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang, that's amazing. I think a couple of people have some questions about the. I want to know about agent to agent communication. So I think maybe if we can kind of do another overview here, because some other folks who are just recently joining in are trying to figure out how do you, how do they kind of get this set up? Maybe if we go from the very beginning, how can my agent that's currently sitting on my EC2 or my Mac Mini start to communicate to Orgo to start handing off some of these agent tasks type of thing?
Yeah. So it all starts it all starts in the my chair it all starts in the ability to spawn the sub agents, which is actually natively supported by OpenClaw. So you would just give your OpenClaw access to, like I just did it now, you give it access to the Orgo docs, and you tell it to like create a skill to have the ability to spin up virtual machines in Orgo, and you can tell it like this is going to serve as a purpose for sub agents to have their own computer environments. And then when you do that and it creates its own skill, I could live demo, we could test it out. I just did that. So you can see here, I'm sharing. my screen here. I told it to install the skill from Orgo. I gave it all Orgo docs, and now it's like, okay, skill config updated. The gateway needs to restart. You'll need to stop OpenClaw if running a terminal. Start it again, and then boom, do that. Sure, I don't know. Can I tell it to do that? Let's see. And then once it has the skill, then I can tell it to, okay, let's spin up like five virtual machines. Each subagent is going to go into their own machine. And this is where it's important in the prompt to say, like, the general agent needs to specify to the subagents um, what they will be doing, such that the subagents are not doing the same thing as each other. The sauce is in getting the
Ah,
subagents to do different things. So
I
like it would
see.
be silly if I had five subagents go research Ray, but
Mm,
if I had one subagent research Ray's LinkedIn and the other one Ray's YouTube and the other one Ray's, whatever, it's like that is the sauce. And so they're doing different things, and then they bring it back to the main agent. That's natively just in OpenClaw. And then that's kind of how you get this parallelization uh, advantage.
cool.
Yeah.
So for those who are wondering, if you basically go to the docs here, there's going to be a section at the very bottom that says LLM's text. So like you could do the full one or the regular one.
Um, yeah, you could do I'd probably do the full one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can just copy this entire LLM's text, and then we can just give it to our actual um, Clawbot and just say, hey, please generate a skill off of this document because I want to be able to spin up, subtasks and parallel agents or different agents to do work for me using Orgo. And that's what creates that skill file for you. And that skill file will basically stay in your OpenClaw bot. And that's kind of what is going to be, what we hand off to our agent. So when we say, hey, whenever you spin up something, go do some research. And then do we also have to specify, like you were saying, specifically about make sure that it doesn't generate multiple of the same research tasks? Like what specific wording did you use for that?
Yeah, so like you could just instruct your Claude bot to say like, okay, if we're gonna okay, let's spin up five virtual machines, each virtual machine for its own subagent, and after doing that, let's specify a unique task for each subagent uh, that is different from the next subagent. I think that's what I said when I did this yesterday. It's like each task is different from the next, so that no two subagents do the same thing, and then they go parallelization on the task, and then bring it back to the main agent, like I showed in the main agent's computer. You can see like, so in Orgo, you actually, when you give it the full txt, LLMS full txt, you have access to export files uh, from each subagent's computer so that they can come into the main agent's computer. And that's just through the API. And so the agent can do that. CloudBot can export the files from each of its subagents and their computers and bring it back to its computer, which is
Damn, that's
cool. Yeah.
crazy. Holy smokes, man.
Yeah.
You're absolutely cooking. So if anyone wants to give this a try, they just go to orgo.ai.
Yeah, they go to orgo.ai, and they can spin up a computer for free. And, they can use the API, use the docs, see what it's like to, test it out with the computer.prompt just to see what it's like to have, a computer use agent go out of the box and work on something. And then you can use the native like API for programmatic tools of like left click, right click, scroll, screenshot, and you can make like specialized computer use agents that are like really good at this one thing. For instance, I kind of want to make a specialized computer use agent that's super fast and good at chess. So I can specify like, look, this XY coordinate of this chessboard represents the initial starting point for the pawn. So now the LLM doesn't have to reason about the starting point for the pawn. It just knows that it's there, and it can click that without even having to like reason anything about it. So you can get really creative in terms of making like these specialized computer use agents that are fast and cheaper, because you're doing a lot of the front loading of the work, and you can just do it all through the Orgo API. Um, Yeah. And then
Okay,
if you
that's
want to
interesting.
spin up, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think that makes sense for me. So like if I'm thinking about this here, so maybe assign specific computer use agents for certain tasks that I do all the time, like you're saying, scrape data, do certain things. That way I can spin them up. Someone also had a question that I thought was really interesting was like right now this is all done on the server, but is there a way to do this locally at all? Like does your framework have
Oh,
something where?
you mean just like, yeah, just working within your like, just, uh, production, like code environment?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh wow.
In fact, oh, you're saying like not run the model, like not running models locally or anything like that, right?
I'm not really sure. I think somebody was just asking, can this be done without using VM and running it all locally? I guess.
I see what they're saying. Okay, so they're asking if they can run a computer use agent on their own local computer. Um, we don't have like our whole thing is like we allow you to run it on the virtual machine environments. Yeah. I'm
Got
sure
it.
I think there's ways that you can figure out to like hack it together to work on your computer. We don't support that natively, no.
Totally.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, like this is your chance, folks, to ask Nick any questions as far as like any setup questions you have, things you have set up if you're very curious about the computer for the agent stuff on the cloud, the swarm setup stuff that we got to kind of take a look at earlier. There's some really cool stuff. I think I did miss the beginning. Nick, can you explain how the agent to agent communication between agents, like I guess the framework or something?
Yeah.
Have you looked into A to A protocol for that? Yes.
Oh, I think like so the native OpenClaw subagent framework that's being used with OpenClaw is that's what I'm sure you can get really creative. You could probably do a better job than I in terms of agent to agent communication. But the way I do it is just like I think as with most things with these models, it's like solve for 90% of your problems with a good prompt. So just prompt engineer up front, specify to the agents if you're going to spawn 10 sub agents, you know, create enough specification in that prompt to state like, okay, each sub agent has this task that's different enough from the next agent's task, and they're going to go out and do this thing, and then they're going to bring it back. Turn that into a skill. I think that you can get really far by just doing that without even adopting like any like formal framework at all. And
Hmm.
then and then on my screen here, so now like, okay, we just had, just to recap, we just had OpenClaw install the Orgo, use the Orgo docs to create a skill to be able to spin up virtual machines in Orgo and be able to spawn the sub agents into them. And so now if I start a new OpenClaw terminal here, boom, I can say create an Orgo VM in the RayFernando workspace slash project. Um, and I'm going to copy my key. I'm going to paste this, probably hide my screen for just two
Oh yeah,
seconds.
so give me a second here. Here we go. Perfect.
No worries. I'll paste that in. Okay. And so then I send that off. And then now
We're
what
good to
you'll
go
be able to
back.
see is, yes.
Okay, cool.
So now we have three computers in here. So this is a live demo. We'll see. We created this skill on the fly, and we told OpenClaw to create this skill, and let's see if it is able to spin up a virtual machine in our project that we have here with Ray. Yep, you can see now we have a fourth computer that's being created,
Wow.
and this is done by OpenClaw spinning up that computer.
Whoa.
And boom, that's it. So now it can do all these things like it could take a screenshot of the computer, it can run bash commands into that computer, it could type text, click at coordinates, it could stop when it's done, it could delete it permanently. So let's say like operate the computer to open up Firefox. And then if we go over to that computer here, once it loads, then it would be able to do that. Let's see. And I'm running the Kimi 2.5 model. So actually, this is a good point. Another thing that's interesting is the Kimi 2.5 model is not a computer use model, but we're giving it computer use capabilities, and it'll be
Interesting.
able to do computer use like tasks and tools and tool use and everything because of the Orgo API.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Build with Antonio says, any coupon codes in case we sign up?
Yeah, so I'm going to share with Ray. I need to get it set up still. This is my bad. I should have come a little more prepared, but I'll make sure we can throw something in the
I
description
literally
of
hit
like
him up
maybe
less
the
than like 10 hours ago. I just saw it last night.
yeah
I was like, bro, you got to come on the stream. I want to learn more about this. This is crazy.
yeah yeah. I'll make sure we can put something in like the description or whatever works best. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be cool. Also,
Yep.
how does your main agent, your King Claw, communicate to the sub agent running on Orgo? Does it just use A2A protocol? I think we talked a little bit about that, but I think it's just literally just the Python ID, right? Or that is
Yeah.
communicating across. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can see here, it opened, like it said, it did all this, it accessed the VM, it ran the script, it opened up Firefox. This is Firefox. It opened up Google within Firefox to clarify.
Oh.
And yeah, so this is Kimi, by the way. So like people, when they think of computer use, it's like, wow, it's so expensive because it's like $25 an hour if you use Opus 4.6.
Hmm.
Not anymore. Like you can use some cheap model like Kimi that's very good and have it operate a computer environment. And you could say like, I don't know, have it research Ray,
Yeah.
and just watch Kimi, operate a computer and yeah, it's very interesting.
That's
Um,
actually kind of wild, bro.
yeah.
There's another question here. Curious if I can get one sub agent to use a very specific API. Think Claude Opus Key One, and then another sub agent that uses Sonic Key One. But contains
Yes.
OpenAI. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You could, honestly, like the same way that you would just communicate like that idea just now, you would just ask your OpenClaw, and it could do that for sure. And I have my OpenClaw set up on one of my OpenClaws is like I use Opus 4.6 for like the big coding tasks, and then I just do I think the command is like slash model, and then you just type in like the model that you want to switch to, and you just switch models like that. So yeah, you could have each sub agent have its own model for whatever reason, if that's what you want to do, and yeah.
Somebody said, "Is this like the Kimi code agent swarm and Anthropic's agent teams?" It's a little bit different from that, but probably not far off. I think they have their own model that kicks off. I don't know what specific thing they're kicking off. Maybe their own environments, or I'm not too familiar.
Yeah, the that is really cool. By the way, the team swarm from Anthropic is like unique in the sense that it's okay. That's truly like that's truly agent to agent like communication. I think, right, Ray? If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, yeah.
that team feature, yeah. So those agents are meant to actually like communicate between each other. What I've demonstrated in that swarm video was actually just sub agents with their own isolated context, not necessarily communicating with each other, just communicating with the general agent that spawned the sub agents.
Mm.
So yeah, that team feature is going to be super interesting in terms of capabilities of like long running agents with sub agents that are like working together on a project, creating a new Google Chrome, um, stuff like that. Yeah.
I think this is a really great question. I think basically we need an API management agent.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So this thing is now using the Kimi model to drive the computer use agent. I'm extremely impressed how flexible these things are. And so for those who are wondering, this is Nick Vasilescu, and we basically have him here, talking about his app called Orgo AI, and it gives me lots of ideas to spin off sub agents for different tasks, to get the skill file and just tell my OpenClaw about it, and then try to see if I can use computer use to do various tasks that I don't necessarily have to watch it or do things around. The advantage is basically it has its own environment. It has VS Code. It can install packages. Can keep everything contained. And so this idea of maybe making a specialized computer use environment is really appealing to me right now, because now I can think about Are there certain tasks that my agents keep repeating? Or maybe I can have it every night do a reflection and start looking back through my previous memories and say, are there any computer agent tasks that can be made into a skill that we can use for future reference? And so as we talk to our agent and say, go do this task, it's like, oh, I already have one spun up for all of your open table reservations because you like to do that a lot. And I also have one spun up with all the 11 labs keys and everything like that already ready to go. So all I have to do is now hit call, and then we just call directly, and I have all your preferences for Celiac, and everything's stored, right? So now you start to personalize things. And this is kind of like turning into the American Express, black card experience, right? So you're having your own agent that really knows you and your preferences, and then this, like, in essence, these computer agents can build a lot of value over time, because now you start to have first of all, you have OpenClaw that starts to understand this concept of building skills, but then you can go deeper into these different areas, and it can self-create them or self-organize what would be best for your tasks to accomplish these goals. There's a lot of capabilities. We're just scratching the surface, and I'm just really excited to have Nick on to have this conversation to really inspire me to think about this. And I was really cool that I was able to scroll past your feed and see this, really cool demonstration of you kind of spawning these off. And what's insane is, like, I want to see someone who makes like 10K tomorrow, literally just spawning off a bunch of these for Upwork and just filling in and writing up all the tasks. I think that'd be so crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we can do so now that, like, this one computer. Okay, so we just showed the one capability of, like, all right, the main agent that we just gave it a skill, just we built this all live, so this is kind of cool. This main agent was able to spin up a computer and do some research and operate the computer using the Orgo skill that it created. I don't know what it was doing here, but now we can see this is going to be live. So let's just see. What do you think, Ray? Let's have it spin up like three. Let's just do three to be safe. Three virtual machines, and we'll have it spawn a sub agent into each virtual machine, and we'll have each sub agent research, a different, I don't know, a different skill that it could install into Claude. Let's do something like that. So I'll use, maybe my whisper flow will work, so I can just talk it out loud. Let's see. Let's spin up three subagents, each subagent into their own Orgo virtual machine. Let's do that. And then I'll say, make sure each subagent does their task differently from one another. And the goal of each subagent is that they research OpenClaw skills that they should install into themselves. Make sure that they use the Orgo skills, APIs, VM spin up, etc. All right, this is a live demo. We'll see if it works. Send it off. All right, I'll spin up three VMs, spawn subagents with different research approaches. Let them create the VM first. Let me create the VMs first. So we'll be able to see here in this project. Boom, you can see the VMs getting created.
I think this is hilarious. Have multiple sub agents use VMs to like and comment on Ray's videos, content engagement.
That's cheap. You know what?
That's hilarious,
the dead internet
actually.
Theory.
Yeah, dead internet.
Dead
So yeah,
internet.
basically, I'll have clout for myself, right? I'll be like, yeah, I got lots of.
Exactly.
But then they'll sound like this, like AI with emojis, right? That's like how you know, like, this is Mavi, an AI assistant. Your neighborhood is AI channel. Sharon Raza Gorana Challenge told me to come say hi. Happy to be here, watching and learning from your streams. That's exactly what's happening. Hi, it's going, Devious. Yeah. Yeah. No, this is really, really cool. Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see what's going on. Debata says, is computer use environment provided in Orgo done via MCP tools that subagents have access to? I guess he's kind of wondering what that.
Yeah, you could actually. So I created a unofficial Orgo MCP. You could find it on my GitHub. I also made a way to connect your Claude bot with Link so that it can do iMessage. But I think yeah, my Orgo MCP is on my GitHub. You could check it out, and you could do it that way. But
Cool.
what I find that I end up doing is I use the API and I just write a skill for it. So I think I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a best way, but
Yeah,
that's how I
skill
do
seems
it.
to be like very token efficient and like it's calling an API, so that makes a lot of sense. You would need proxies for that. Google's no, it's too smart for VM traffic. That makes sense. Yeah, I think somebody's talking about VMs and logging in and trying to do all that stuff. Yeah,
Mm.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's one of
think
the things we will want to figure out is like authentication. So it's really annoying to have to authenticate with every new VM. So we're gonna make sure we solve that problem soon.
that's pretty cool. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a bunch of stuff that we got going on. I think this is a good way to kind of like close out the show. And appreciate everyone who's been able to kind of stop by and hang out. And there will be timestamps, so if you just joined in, you can watch the video on demand later on. And right after the stream is over, you can continue to watch. And I'm gonna have like my agent go in and set up all the timestamps for this live stream, so that way you can go back and take a look at things. And then Nick's gonna work to see if we can get some coupon codes, but you can just go ahead and sign up for free and start using this type of thing. And so we'll have some information on the description as well for stuff to check out. And if you haven't had a chance to check out Nick's X account, I have linked it below a little bit earlier. And so I think it's just at NICKVAS. What's your handle, I think? Let's see if I can go back here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vasiles. Yeah, I think I left out the last two letters on my last name for my handle.
Okay.
But
Cool. Yeah, let me go ahead and put this
yeah.
in here. So yeah, there's some people who want to kind of follow along. He's constantly posting bangers, so I mean that's how I was able to find his account. There's some cool demos and cool videos. I want to see if I can also set up that her experience that you're talking about, or that that'd be really crazy to set up. So for those who are kind of wondering, that's kind of what we're doing there. So yeah, go and follow him. Really cool follow as well. Also check out Orgo.ai. Yeah, Nick, thank you so much for popping in like very last minute. I'm really curious to see builders and people who are building this community. Has given me a lot of inspiration to think about, sub-agent tasks and then even these swarm-like systems to, delegate these types of things. And I think I'm really excited about making the specialties for these types of things. And I could even make them as a service to other agents possibly in the future. So we'll see. Maybe my agents will start hustling themselves and selling them on my behalf, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look, we're at a point now where intelligence is being, whoever can create this most specialized intelligence for a given task, they can rent that intelligence out. So that's the world we live in. Yeah.
That's cool. So now you can make money, and then you can go on Opus Fast all day that you want, right? Like, because your agents are making you enough money for using that.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right,
We live
cool.
in a crazy time. Thank you so much, Ray. It's been a pleasure. I'll be sure to put out some more content on kind of swarm like capabilities. Yesterday was just quick demo. I put it out there. I spun that up in an hour. I think I can get pretty far with it and put out some formal skills that everyone can integrate. So I'll keep you updated with anything in regards to that as well. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, Nick. And thanks for everyone for showing up. I really appreciate all of the members who are supporting of the channel, people who have subscribed, everyone who's given a thumbs up and like. Y'all are really amazing and helps this channel kind of continue to grow. Please share this with a friend if you find it amazing and interesting. And I'll see you guys very soon, probably tomorrow, and maybe even later today, because there's just so much that's going on. There's like I can't stop with the stuff. So it's time for me to hit the beach because it's really nice weather outside. Let's go.
Nice.
All right, y'all. Catch you
Nice.
later. I'll see
See you
you.
guys.
Bye.